Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so then, you know what? I'll just do it. That's fine.
All right, sure. Anushka, will you be switching on your video
Yeah, sure.
for the moderation? Once you're done, we'll just start uh, letting people in.
Yeah, and once y'all do that, then you guys take control of that letting people in, because otherwise I'll
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
do
sure,
that in
sure. No,
between.
no, don't worry about that. We'll take it
Perfect.
over. Yeah. So we just let people in. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. It would really be great if you all could switch on your cameras so that we can all like. It's a very intimate session as of now, but it would be great if you all could switch on your cameras so that, because this is going to be a very one-on-one Q&A session-ish sort of a session. So feel free to uh, talk about things that you want to talk about and all your confusions. Um, I'm sure all of you are aware of the fact that the college deadlines for international colleges are approaching, and it's really uh, our very own mentor Priyanka Bhartia, who will be taking you through all the last minute tips and things that you should do to polish your essays, your applications, your LORs, and put everything in place for your college applications. And a very warm welcome to you. Co-moderating this session with me. She is very own ambassadors. And Anita, with you, you can take over and let's get started. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it up in the chat box. We'll take it up from there. And yes, let's make it interactive.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I know we have a very small cohort of students. I have made a presentation, but when we're just about a few of us, I don't even think I nearly need to do a presentation. Here's what I'm going to ask you all first, and please put it on the chat button. Are you all looking to apply to any specific country? So typically US, UK, Canada, or anywhere else, then put that in the chat button so I'll be able to focus on that. Let's decide if we really need to make the presentation. I'll show you the letters of recommendation, samples, etc. But first, let me know the countries that we're looking at in this small cohort. Okay, so, okay, I'm seeing US and UK feature in. So Aditi, Anushka, more or less US, UK is what I am seeing. Is that what you're all
Yes,
seeing
same
as
here.
well?
No, no, same. It's mostly US, UK.
Perfect. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll go into the pages for US, UK, but let's address questions. So what I expect you all to do is unmute yourselves and just start asking me questions, because you all don't have too much time. Application is not even right around the corner. It's already there. It's on your faces. So I'd rather answer your questions and make it such a generic kind of a presentation. So I represent admission specialist.
Can we have Anushka to introduce you if you would allow us?
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
So, hello everybody. We have Priyanka ma'am with us today, and she's the managing director of the Asia program at Accept You and the founder of Admission Specialist. As a journalist and a passionate educator, Priyanka helps to provide pro bono services to local schools across India, UAE, and Africa. She also oversees and supports all families in the college admission process, ensuring complete client satisfaction. Over to you, Priyanka ma'am.
Thank you, Anushka. That's so sweet of you. Um, okay. Admission specialist, our intent is to make overseas education a little more easier, a little more affordable. We help you with your applications, but we also try and help you understand your scholarships and financial aid abilities and opportunities. Admission specialist, premium B2B education consulting. We partner with high schools, colleges, and we have over 25 years of education experience. I don't need to introduce myself. Anushka's already done it. Our second partner is Shilpa. She has actually been the former vice principal in schools and the advising member for the International Association of Colleges in US, UK, and Canada. We have a lot of student mentors who work with admission specialists, obviously very interesting ones, right from economics to business to engineering to computer science to finance. Everything is available there. We hopefully encourage children to help each other as well. I will talk you a little into an MBA into US if that's what you're looking at. Pretty obviously 4 years. When you're looking to apply to US, one of the things to keep in mind is that if you've studied only for 3 years, you will have to show some sort of a 1-year program or certification of one so that you can show a 3+1. Do not get fooled and let it go as a 3 years because the US might reject it, okay? Find the international equivalent. Reach out to the college of your choice, the school of your choice. Ask them, how do you do that? Resume, 1 page. Do not make it into a 3-page. US will not read it, okay? It has to be able to show something that your SOP is not showing. Has to be extremely action-oriented. I hope you all had attended my webinar on writing a resume. If not, go on the AFH website. It will be available there. Personal statement SOP, super, super important. It has to highlight why you're choosing this major. What have you done towards the major? Tangible outcomes in that major, your career goals to show why you want to do that major and why you're applying to that specific university. How is it adding value? If you're going to say we really like your computer science program or we really like the MBA, no one's interested. We really like the MBA in Columbia because you can do that MBA while you're even doing a historical study with the museums of New York. And that only the MBA of Columbia offers, for example. Okay, or you say Booth, which is the highest portion of math quotient in the MBA, and you want to work in finance and PE or investment banking. So you have to go really into the core of why that specific university. Letters of professional recommendation. I have seen letters of recommendation which are as atrocious as she's a really smart student and deserves to go to a great college. They don't want to know that. What they want to know is while she was working with us, this other project she worked, this other tangible differences she brought. She managed to bring a 30% cut in costs or managed to bring a 25% increase in the digital layout. It has to be action oriented and very specific. Okay, this is happening a lot more now. You may be an English student, we all know that, but English proficiency now seems to be the order of the day. I'd recommend take the TOEFL. If you're looking at UK and you've taken the IELTS, that's fine. If you've done the Duolingo, that's fine. For US, sometimes not accepted in UK. Make sure you check that. Okay, there are scores that we are looking at. There are paper-based scores, but there's also the GMAT score. I'm recommending the GMAT. I've written 600 here, but if you're looking at the top 5, you need a 700, okay? It's just as obvious as that here. Okay, I don't know how many of y'all are looking at the MSc, very similar, high CGPA or GPA, very important, showing your technical background, very important. So when you make your resume, make sure you also highlight on the left or the right justified, what are the technical backgrounds you're qualified with. Don't colorize your resume. US hates it, yellow and orange and purple and different zones of rectangles. And this is no class on triangles and rectangles and colors. Make it simple. Blue, white, and grayscale works wonderful. Do not write long sentences. It should fit into one sentence what you're trying to say. Letters of recommendation, transcript, statement of purpose remains the same. A lot of times you hear something called a personal history statement or a diversity statement, which essentially has to qualify who are you? Okay, why are you unique? What do you bring to us as a college that someone else may not be? So go very personal. I've heard stories about no one, you being the first generation student, there was no money for your parents, they come from a rural background. All of those are interesting. There's nothing to shy away from that. Okay, those are the highlights to be done here. Again, IELTS, TOEFL, we've discussed. I'm not going into Canada. It's very similar. UK. In UK, what changes is your SOP. Your SOP has to be even more academically inclined, okay? So they don't really want to look at, I joined a club or I worked in volunteering. It has to be very strongly academically or internship or work oriented, okay? Here, 3 years bachelor's is good enough, okay? A lot of them have started asking for the GMAT as well. So please go into the details if MBA is what you're looking at. MSc, they're looking more at the GRE or they're looking at the PTE. So make sure that those are covered. Everything else remains the same pretty much. Okay, I have taken the liberty of putting SOP samples here, but I'm really open to questions now. A lot of people tell me, I don't know what an SOP should look like. So I just took the liberty of putting, now, for example, this student is architecture, applying to US top colleges. So we started with a little about how she chose architecture, what made her know it was architecture. Had this been UK, I wouldn't have really written the ruffles of the first paragraph. We would have straight gone into the second paragraph, okay? So that's just to show the highlighting the difference. But as you notice, very quickly, she has moved to speaking about studying architecture, why she wants women to work into architecture, why she felt they struggle. She moves on to talking about the papers where she's talking about modernism and heritage. And then she talks about her internships. It flows into talking about why she wants to start a women-based architectural firm, what she wants to reduce from there, what she wants to increase, and how Cornell is where she's applying, how Cornell is going to help her at every stage of the the next 3 years that she'll be working, or 5 years. Okay, this one's applying to computer science, and I'm assuming a lot of you might be. So she's moved straight into how and what made her go. Again, she's applying to Stanford. So she speaks about this corridor, the World Wide Web was born. She talks about what was fascinating. She talks about a professor who actually came and spoke with her. And then how she started diagnosing and working during the COVID period. It's a very, very strong essay, and it ends with her saying that, I hope to be one of those women where when young children and young girls come, I hope I can be one who will go and strike a conversation and maybe change their lives. LOR sample, I've removed the names. The stars are not abusive here. The stars are more the names. So Again, if you see, very, very specific, during this, according to this, very closely what we worked. So, those things are kind of covered here. Another sample. Similarly, if you notice artificial intention, handed over this market research, this is where the person contributed with gesture recognition. Again, in the rest, they worked around that area. Her research was exhaustive, well structured. What did she use for it, and how did she overcome the challenges? Resume samples, again, see how clean and clear it is. And I think that's super important. This person is actually studying at UC Berkeley now, computer science. This is another one. This person's actually doing an MBA at a very top, I think it's either Harvard or Wharton, I'm not sure, but so that's a little, of course, my numbers, etc. there. I'm happy to answer questions. I can't do too many once I'm in my work zone. So I actually would encourage you all to start asking me questions now. Yeah, any questions? Please unmute yourself, raise your hand. Anushka, Aditi, take the floor for the questions. And I really want to address what is the problem you're facing or your queries you're facing.
Hi, good evening, Priyanka. This is Tanvi here. I have a question. Now you mentioned that, for example, if somebody is looking to do an MBA from Booth, they should tie it up with what the school is saying is for example, finance and investment banking. But I'm wondering, suppose there's a student who doesn't feel that their long-term goals are aligned to that particular field, yet want to do an MBA from that school, maybe because of the pedigree, the location, or just a mere fascination for the school. What should that person do in that case? Should he still or she, kind of morph their SOPs to reflect that kind of a goal or a value that school provides, or should they be authentic in their approach and their final needs from that school?
Warning, if you're looking at the city, if you're looking at the pedigree, if you're looking at the location or the ranking, they know it, and that's not the reason they want you. Always remember, any university you're applying to has two questions that they're looking for through your SOP and your application. What do you bring to them? What do they bring to you? Okay, it's absolutely fine if you don't fall into that general category of I want to apply to an investment banking firm. But if you want to get into any university, taking the example of Booth, they're very big on startup. So let's say you have worked with a startup, or let's say you've been working with, let's say, the MBBD, and you realize you have an idea for a startup and that you want to get into a startup, and this is what you've done, or you've started your own little initiative, or you worked with other women in startups, and you realize that the best place is the hub of Booth, the startup hub or the investment competitions where you'll be able to pitch it. That's fine as well. But if it's not specific, it's not going to sell. Okay. Can you steer your story to suit a college? Oh, never. They read applications every single year. Over 30,000 applications hit them. They'll sense if you're being fake, because everything you've done straight from school to college to your internships to your work experiences will highlight your passion. It cannot be hidden. So Tanvi, in order, I'm hoping I'm answering your question. In order to apply to Booth, do a deep dive to find what do you bring to them, what do they bring to you. And if there is nothing, then it's probably not the university you want to apply to.
Understood. Thanks. I think, yeah, you made a great point. But just to follow up with that, since there could be potential 10, 15 schools, and the research in itself to shortlist the schools is huge, right? What is the best way to figure out what are the selling points and what to actually surround your essay around? Like what should be that pivot? How to analyze that for different schools?
Fabulous question. One, please follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You'll get a lot of information. Second, reach out to at least 2 to 5 alumni of that particular university. The kind of information they'll give you, nobody else will be able to give you. Third, please go through their website and the faculty. Let's say you want to do an MBA. Go through the faculty, go through each of the faculty's research papers. What is their core area of interest? So that you know, oh my God, I love this person. This is exactly what I want to do. So when you write your essays, you will be able to see, hey, I started a nonprofit to work with women, and I was hoping to get them into jobs. I started working with Aspire for her. I'm sharing my story here, but we didn't know how to increase our ambassadors because it was during the period of COVID. But I saw the story of alum dash dash dash, or I saw the story of the faculty who is working in, increasing women in workspace. And that is the area I would like to take. You get your story here. Always connect your story to their story. I keep coming back to this because this is super important.
Great tip, thank you. I leave the floor for others to ask questions.
But
Yeah.
Tanvi, again, sorry, if you can't do this for 15, don't apply to 15. But make sure the 5 that's most important to you, do this exercise, bacha. It's super, super critical for me to explain that to you.
Yes, noted, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanvi. Aditi, did you put a question on the chat, or is there anyone else?
Is there anyone who wants to ask any other question? Okay. So my question was that being a STEM student, I wanted to apply to a non-STEM course, which is Masters in Music Business. But do you think the prospects are right? Like, how do you align what you're doing with what you want to do? Because it's possible that they could be different, that where you want to reach is a little different than where you really are.
I love your question, Aditi. Seriously love it. Before you ask the second part, let me answer to you. The student who was actually, so I'll tell you about a student who's actually applied to a music program, and she was an engineering student, was working with a lot of coding and AI. But one of the projects that she worked with during her internship was actually setting up the genres of music and finding it was an application to do a whole diagnosis of different kinds of Hindi music and give it the right genre. So when she worked on that, her program and her profiling was completely based on coding, but she realized how much she enjoyed it because she herself loves music and was a trained classical singer. And that's what she speaks about. She says that while I've done this, I now want to study the business of music because both the tangible skills together will help me start up a firm. So there goes the story. So think deep if there's any project that you've done like that, which eventually goes back to music or goes back to the culture or the root of your country.
Yeah, that actually does make sense. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Because I see a lot of students here who are from IITs, and I'm sure you have plans of applying. So if there's any question that you want to ask, this is the time. Because if not today, next year, or probably the year after that, you will be thinking, probably, maybe, there's not a surety, but if you do, then please put your questions up here.
Even if there are questions about scholarship and financial aid, if anyone wants to know what gets them a discount, so to speak, in terms of the investment you need to make, then please feel free to ask me questions. SOP, if you're nervous about the way your SOP is reading, I'm very happy to help.
So what are like the basic guidelines for an SOP? I know it should be aligned to the course, or should it be your own, like a basic framework?
An SOP must be able to show what you have done towards that specific major. And that's why you think doing a master's is important in that. And at every point of time, let's say you speak about a story about, I studied music and I want to be able to create an app that can tell people what music best suits their interest or what music best to play during a specific time. And for that, I really like Professor blah, blah, blah from this university because he or she's done that. So that alignment is super important. A little about yourself, a little about the university. Because when you're looking to apply to a master's program, remember it's very specific. You will be probably working with a very small cohort of people, not the MBA, but a master's in MS or any such thing. You work with just a couple of professors, a couple of students. So the more specific you explain in your SOP, the easier it is for them to guide you to which program you will best fit into.
All right. That makes sense. Anyone else who wants to ask something or?
Yeah, please don't shy away. I'm assuming if you attended it, you probably have something you want to know.
Right.
I think Yashasvi has a question.
Yeah. Please, Yashasvi, you can go ahead.
Hi, Priyanka. First of all, thank you for the session. Very informative. I wanted to ask about scholarships at, the top MBA programs. Are there any schools that, relatively offer more number of scholarships than the others?
Great question. When it comes to MBA, the colleges themselves, the universities themselves don't want to offer you a scholarship. They don't want to offer you aid because they just assume if you're coming to study MBA, you probably have the money. But there are so many different scholarships available for which you can write essays or apply. These are known as merit-based scholarships. And even in our country, many corporates are funding young girls to go abroad to study and do their MBAs. How do you find this out? You go on the website of the university, write to them, say, look, this is my background. I wanted aid. How do I go? If there's any Indian resource that you are aware of or any international resource that's available. A large chunk of times as you're reading about that university, always read about the scholarship students. So for example, there's something known as a Rhodes Scholar. How they got the scholarship is something they explain in their essays or their videos. Please start finding out the information from there as well. And do not hesitate to write to a corporate. Let's say you work there. Say, look, I want to apply for my MBA. Will you be able to fund a part of mine? I have had many children who've actually got funded almost 40%. So please don't hesitate to do that. Make sure your cover letter is very strong. It's like an SOP and your resume is attached and you're reaching out to the right person, which has to be someone in the senior management. And the HR helps you reach out to this person.
Right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome, Yashasvi. This answer completely changes, Aditi, if it's a master's in any other program, computer science, engineering, everything changes. If it's not the business or the economics route, there is a huge amount of scholarships and aids that open up. And even if you want to study a dissertation or a PhD, you're actually paid to do that program. So students, please do your homework there.
Absolutely. I think there are certain things that in general, a lot of students are not aware of, like they can apply for a scholarship and that is there like a particular income level who can apply for a scholarship, or is it that anyone can apply for it? Like, because a lot of people think that you have to be really maybe not BPL, but
I know what you mean. Yeah. Financially, you have to have a disadvantage. Not necessarily. If you have an academic advantage and you believe you can try for a scholarship, you should reach out to the university and say, I want to apply for scholarship. What are the progress or the methods to do it? And here's what I'll tell you about one of my students who got in. And once you actually get into a university, there are a lot of programs to apply for scholarship even once you're there. And this particular boy applied and he reached out to me. We helped him write to scholarship essays as well, and he got a 25,000 for the next year, and every year he continues to apply for the program and get it. And $25,000, if you're going to pay 40 to 50,000, it's well worth it.
Absolutely. Um, Another thing is that, how many colleges should one apply to increase their chances of
Yeah.
getting admitted? Because of course one is going to be a dream college you'll surely apply to, but
Yeah.
should there be like, you should apply to two dream colleges or one or three? I mean, for somebody with a, I mean, of course, it's going to depend on your academic level. Like if you're really extremely well in acads or something. Is there anything, that one should keep in mind depending on their abilities, both academic and extracurricular or something like that?
Um, I'd say a thumb rule, 5 to 6. 2 could be dream, and the
Yeah.
rest should be between safety and targets. So safety is where you're sure you'll be able to get through. I also kind of recommend having a plan B approach. So if you're only doing US, have a plan B approach of, let's say, India or UK or Canada, because
Yeah.
sometimes the country's rules and regulations change and you're really caught unaware. Also, sometimes I have noticed that certain things that you feel are very desirous to you at that specific point of time, US is not open to it and I'm not looking for it. So
Yeah.
you're suddenly just being rejected from all the colleges for no reason, even if that's a safety. So I personally feel a plan B is always super important when you're looking to apply overseas.
All right. That makes sense. Um,
I think Tanvi had a question.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
I think
Tanvi.
on the topic of scholarships, since you mentioned that some schools do offer some kind of scholarships, I was just wondering that since there's a lot of competition for scholarships as well, right? And especially given the Asian cohort, they are overly represented. Uh, should at some decision making point, should it be a consideration? The scholarship, should that be a consideration? For example, if you're applying in your dream school but you don't get a scholarship because of the high competition, but then maybe in a safety school there's lesser competition but you get a scholarship. So what is like a, in terms of purely finance, what do you think according to you is a better choice in that scenario?
So this is one of my pet questions, and I will actually answer this question with my own experience. When I got into this industry, and I used to always see children who get into top Ivy League universities, and we're partnered with Accept You, right? I'm the managing director for India. And the admissions officer would say, "Are you crazy? Why would you go to Brown when you've got 100% Jefferson scholarship at, let's say, U Virginia?" And I'm like, what? Cornell's, Cornell or Brown, etc., are Ivy Leagues. And then I realized why they were doing this. When a college or a university is investing money into you, when they're paying you to come there, they will make sure that you are their creme de la creme. They will make sure you get all the opportunities first. And they will make sure that your success is of highest priority simply because in your success lies their success. So not too many people like this answer of mine. I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest here, but I have realized the value of this. And every year, the children who come out with scholarships proves the point.
In a sense, are you saying, can you just confirm this if you're saying that maybe if there's a admit from say Warden or a Booth versus if you have it from some other M15 college with the scholarship, you should prefer that college over maybe the Ivy League?
It's a very tough decision, and I wish I could say yes, but I would say give it a thought.
Okay.
Okay. I would definitely say give it a thought. Understand, is the program as good? Understand what the faculty is. Understand what the scholarship will entail for you. Like Babson sometimes gives scholarships which says, I will fund one of your startup ideas as well as fund your dissertation research paper, which means children of mine have actually traveled to Spain because they were working on a project on olive oil. And everything was paid for because Babson does it. So then, then that it makes sense. But it really depends on what's being funded.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you so much for that candid answer.
Thank you, Tanvi.
Oh, that was thought-provoking. That was absolutely, there are like so many things I've got to know through this session. And anyone in the audience, do you have any questions?
Anyone, if there was any advantage or disadvantage of the presentation, or is there anything else you would have liked to know? You can even put it on the chat button if you don't want to unmute yourself. Yes,
Yes.
Anushka,
Ma'am, I have a quick question.
please.
Actually, I am currently in my second year of
Okay.
engineering BTech, and for me, I think it is a very initial step into thinking about whether I want to go
True.
for my master's or not. So, I have a very basic question that since I'm starting to think about pursuing masters in a particular field, should I be country specific or course specific, like college specific?
You should actually be alignment specific. Forget where you will apply, forget what college you will apply. Focus on making sure I want to do a master's in, let's say, robotic engineering. What can I do today as my internship? What can I do today as my volunteering opportunities? What can I do today as my research or dissertations that will eventually align with that? And that's all that matters. You will only think about the country and the college much later, let's say even a year from now, but the alignment of your activities by then is a little late. Okay. And like Aditi said, if I want to do a master's in music of business, okay. So business, music business, for example, had she known that, she would have started taking that genre in her alignment. And second thing that's important is your academics. GPA is super important. Taking a competitive test like a GRE or a GMAT really adds value. You're so new in the process, so much time, you can actually take it thrice over and make sure your score is high and fantastic because they last for 5 years.
And ma'am, I was reading an article where they were saying that the GRE and GRE score is not valid in many US countries now. Like they are not taking it as a mandatory. It is not a requirement for applying. So
It's
does it?
not true.
It's not true.
It's not true. It is not mandatory. They're not saying it's mandatory, but let's say you are applying and B is applying and B has a GRE score of 325. It's not as though they're not reading it. They're not saying they're blind to it. They're just
So
saying
it
it's
definitely adds a
optional.
value.
It definitely adds value and you have the luxury of time. Why should you shy away from it?
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I had another question. So this is Yashasvi again.
Yes, Yashasvi.
Yeah. So since like you mentioned, that it's a good practice to connect with current students or alumni from whichever college you're looking to apply to. Is there any way to like find out maybe a list of people who got accepted last year or last year? Because I know that LinkedIn is a way, but then for example, people who specifically got into the Harvard 2+2 program, I couldn't find any people, at least from India, who have sort of gotten into the 2+2 program. So is there like any other way to connect with these people?
Very tough if you're going as specific as a 2+2, because a 2+2 means they're already studying in a college when they're applying, right, Yashasvi? So to do that becomes really tricky. What only way to do it is, hopefully, is let's say if they've graduated in 2020 and in 2021 have written that they're incoming batch of Harvard, a lot of them do update it. But otherwise, their dates are written below. When you go down and look into their education, then you'll be able to find it. What you can also do is reach out to the admissions team at Harvard. There are email addresses, and write to them or attend. This is really important, and I didn't mention it. There are a lot of events and talks that happen per college. Each college runs these events. MBA colleges, universities, and schools go crazy about it. You should attend them because they will be able to, and you tell them, like, I really wanted to understand what is a 2+2 and what are the advantages of this. Would you be able to connect me with a student? And you'd be surprised how often they go back and actually do it. And you can write to them if you haven't attended the events, but try and attend the events. For example, Harvard actually allows you to attend online courses. Say, you know what? Come and attend a class with us. Speak with the professor. See what it's like. You're actually a part of that class. You can ask questions. Harvard is one of the very few who do it. So just because you mentioned Harvard 2+2, I'm assuming you're applying to let's say an MBA at Harvard. This was a huge advantage if you can actually attend a class.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Where are you studying currently, Yashasvi? Why are you looking at a 2+2?
I'm in my final year of BTech in Engineering Physics at IIT Delhi, and I'm graduating next year. I'm not
Brilliant.
100% sure on whether or not, I mean, I was looking at, the top 5-7 schools in the US for a deferred MBA.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't find any Harvard admits from India in the last, 4-5 years anywhere. So that was sort of a little discouraging because, according to the statistics, I think they do not prefer Indian candidates for the 2+2 program.
Absolutely untrue. Please don't go by this kind of visual combinations in your own mind. Please write to Harvard and say, look, this is what I've found. I couldn't find anyone. And I was wondering, is it that you're not looking for international student body in the 2+2? It's a great question. Don't write Indian specifically. That almost sounds racist. But international student body, and let them answer it for you. And you know what? It's a great way of demonstrating that you've done your homework on it.
Makes
And
sense.
your chances of getting into a Harvard program or any program on a 2+2 is the highest, simply because otherwise they expect you to have 4 to 5 years of work ex. So let's take a hit. Let's try.
Makes sense. Thanks, Priyanka.
Most welcome, Yashasvi. I wish you all the best. If it does happen and Harvard replies back to you, please send me a message.
Sure. Thank you.
Aditi, it doesn't seem as though anyone else has more questions. So do you want to wrap it up?
Yes, we can definitely wrap it up. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for flooding us with so many informations, and it's been I've learned extremely a lot, and I think it's going to help when I apply. And for all those who are here to apply in the future, it's going to be a big help. Please we'll just put it up on Aspire for Her's YouTube channel. So if you ever want to refer to this video, you can always do that. Thank you so much, Priyanka.
Thank you. It was a
For
pleasure
coming
being
here.
here, and I'm glad I could answer whatever questions, whatever children had here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Good night. Thank you, Tanvi. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good
Take
night.
care.